The hegemony's warfleet blotted out the sun above Geneva, their massive dreadnoughts casting shadows across the United Earth Council chambers. Admiral Vexthul had arrived with 40 ships, more than enough firepower to crack Earth's crust like an eggshell. The alien commander's forearms gestured imperiously as holographic displays showed the devastation his armada had wrought across a dozen worlds. "Your tribute is overdue," Vexthul's translator crackled with metallic menace. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber's lights as compound eyes fixed on the assembled human delegates. "The hegemony demands immediate payment. 50 million of your young for our labor colonies, your entire strategic mineral reserves, and unconditional surrender of your military assets." The human representatives sat in stunned silence. Earth's combined fleets numbered barely 800 vessels, outdated relics compared to the hegemony's technological superiority. President Chen's hands trembled as she reviewed the surrender documents on her tablet. The math was simple: resist and face extinction, or comply and watch humanity become slaves. But at the back of the chamber, an old man slowly rose from his wheelchair. Marcus Rivera was 93 years old, his weathered hands bearing the calluses of 6 decades spent building starships in Luna's orbital yards. Deep lines etched his face like a roadmap of human struggle: the Luna Rebellion, the Martian colonial wars, the first contact disasters that had nearly shattered Earth's unity. He had watched humanity stumble through its first steps into the galaxy, making enemies and allies with equal determination. "No," he said simply. The word hung in the air like a physical thing. Vexthul's translator stuttered, uncertain if it had processed correctly. "Excuse me?" The alien admiral's voice carried the weight of 1,000 conquered worlds. "Did this elderly creature just refuse the hegemony?" Marcus shuffled forward, his walking stick tapping against the marble floor. Each step seemed to echo with defiance. "You heard me correctly, Bug Eyes." "The answer is no." President Chen shot to her feet. "Mr. Rivera, please, sit down, Elena." Marcus's voice carried the authority of someone who had stared death in the face and found it wanting. "I've been building ships longer than you've been alive. I think I know a bluff when I see one." Vexthul's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. "Bluff? Human, I have raised civilizations older than your species. My fleet could turn this world to glass within hours. Then why haven't you?" Marcus asked, continuing his slow approach. "You show up here with 40 ships, impressive, I'll give you that. But you know what I find interesting? They're all support vessels. Cruisers, destroyers, frigates. Where are your planet crackers? Your orbital bombardment platforms?" The chamber fell silent except for the old man's footsteps. Even the alien delegation seemed to shift uncomfortably. Marcus continued, his voice gaining strength. "See, I've studied your hegemony's expansion patterns for decades. Your bullies, pure and simple. You roll up with overwhelming force, demand tribute, and the locals fold because they think they're outgunned. But the dirty secret is this: you can't afford to actually destroy worlds. Every planet you glass is resources you'll never collect, slaves you'll never exploit. Your analysis is flawed," Vexthul said, but uncertainty crept into his synthesized voice. "Is it?" Marcus had reached the speaking podium now, his ancient hands gripping the edges. "Let me tell you what I think really happened here. Your intelligence network told you Earth was weak, divided, easy prey. You expected us to roll over like all the others, but you made one critical error in your calculations." The old man's eyes swept across the chamber, taking in the frightened faces of humanity's leaders, before settling on the alien admiral with laser focus. "You assumed we were rational." Marcus slammed his walking stick against the floor, the sharp crack echoing like a gunshot. "Humans aren't rational, Admiral. We're the species that looked at fire and decided to hold it. We saw an ocean and built ships to cross it. We gazed at the stars and taught ourselves to fly. Every sane species in the galaxy probably took one look at their sun and thought, beautiful but dangerous, best to admire from a distance. You know what humans thought?" His voice rose to a crescendo that seemed to shake the very foundations of the building. "We thought, I wonder what would happen if we built a cage around it and made it work for us." Vexthul's exoskeleton had gone pale, his compound eyes reflecting a new understanding of the ancient human standing before him. "You want our tribute?" Marcus asked, his voice now carrying the quiet promise of inevitable violence. "Here's what I propose instead. You and your 40 ships can turn around and leave our system, right now, because the alternative isn't Earth surrendering. It's every human ship, every orbital platform, every armed citizen making sure your fleet never leaves Sol alive. You would sacrifice your entire species for pride? Vexthul whispered. Marcus smiled, then, an expression that held no warmth whatsoever. Pride? No, Admiral. Love. See those 50 million young people you want to enslave? They're our children. And there is no force in this universe, not your hegemony, not your technology, not the heat death of the cosmos itself, that will make a human parent stand by and watch their kids get hurt. The old man straightened as much as his aged spine would allow, and for a moment the years seemed to fall away from him like discarded armor. So what's it going to be, Bug Eyes? Do you want to test just how irrationally protective humans can get? The silence stretched between them like a taut wire. Finally, Admiral Vexthul's 4 arms fell to his sides in what might have been defeat or respect. The hegemony will consider alternative arrangements, he said slowly. Marcus nodded once, then turned and began his slow walk back to his seat. Elena, he called over his shoulder, cancel that surrender order. Looks like we've got some real negotiations to conduct. As the alien fleet began its withdrawal from Earth's orbit, nobody in the chamber doubted they had just witnessed something extraordinary, not the triumph of technology or tactics, but the raw, uncompromising power of an old man who had simply refused to let evil have its way. Sometimes, the greatest victories came not from the young and strong, but from those who had lived long enough to recognize that some things were worth any price to defend.